Hello and welcome back. Hopefully this is a good angle. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. It's gonna be a little bit of like a chatty video. Did I say welcome back? Hello. Excuse me. I just ate, and for some reason when I eat, it's just, I don't know, I end up having to clear my throat and it's really embarrassing. Oh my gosh, never mind. We won't mention that. Okay, so it's gonna be like a little bit of like a chit chat video. I kind of want to talk about the importance and like finding community. So, for those who are like looking for community or like going to different churches, and just like trying to put yourself out there and get like a little bit out of your comfort zone. And then also for the singles, just reminding them like the beautiful position that they are in, and that possibly one day you will not be in this position anymore. So just to really appreciate where you are at. So yeah, I don't know why I said that with such attitude. It was like, yeah, like I was like, it did a little head thing. Anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, so right now I'm going to, well, this is my second time, but I am starting to get involved with a new church. So okay, look, a little bit of like a backstory. I'll try not make this too long, even though I have a hard time doing that. But basically, I have been going to the same church since I was a little kid, like born. I think probably my mom probably had me and then probably stayed home for a couple weeks, maybe, I don't know, and then took me to church. I don't know. I've been going there since I was a baby. Okay, so I've been going to the same church. I did leave for a little bit. Nothing wrong with that either. Some people go to the same church and they grow up there and then they raise their kids there, and that's amazing. So I'm not dogging. I'm not saying like, oh, that's nothing wrong if you go to the same church, whatever. Like, I think that's beautiful. I did go to a different church with my friend and her family for a little bit. And then I eventually just ended up going back to the original church, right? And then I wasn't going to church for a couple of years, for about 2.5 years. And at first it was weird for me because, so it was because of work. At first it was very weird for me because I have always gone to church like almost every week. So it's very weird to not go to church. But I was like, at first I was, it felt like, oh, this isn't right. And then, I kind of was like, you know what? I was listening to sermons. Like every Sunday I would listen to praise music. I would listen to, sermons and stuff like that. So I was like, at least I'm still getting the word. Now, then I was involved in a Bible study as well. So I would go to Bible studies on a certain night of the week, and then, like I wouldn't go to a physical church, but I would still like, have something. And I would listen to like podcasts and sermons throughout the week too. And then that Bible study stopped. Eventually just stopped. And then I was like, okay, this is all right, And then, towards the end of me working and not going to church, I was like, I need church. But no, okay, so hold on, that's a lie. So my timeline's off. So I felt like I needed church even before my Bible study stopped. Because I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in, like amongst other believers. And it can get a little bit exhausting when you're not able to be around other believers. And that's not to be disrespectful to people who don't believe the same thing, but it's like, imagine constantly being around someone that does not share, or like people that don't share your views, or that they don't really have like the same interests at your core. You might be able to talk about like fashion or sports or whatever, but when it comes to, you know, your belief system, that's pretty important. And I'm not saying that you can't talk to people outside of that. Obviously you can. And, you know, I get along with all kinds of people. It's not like me trying to dog on anybody. It's just at the end of the day, being around people who you share the same beliefs, like the core beliefs, and you can get into God's word together. You can, you know, pick each other's brains, you know, about the Bible, and ask each other questions and study God's word together, because that's just so important, you know. And hearing other people's opinion, like not like opinions, I guess, but input, there we go, you know, input on, you know, what they got, what God was showing them when they read this verse or when they read that, or throughout the week, the praise, you know, a praise that they had, an answered prayer that they want to share. Like, just very encouraging, you know. And I just was kind of like, oh man, I am not in an actual community every week, you know, being in God's word. Like, yes, I'm listening online, but I'm not physically with people. And it was just really taking a toll on me. And then eventually I ended up like being able to get off on Sundays. So then I was able to go back to church. Fast forward, was at church for a little bit, and then I kind of was feeling a little bit of a disconnect in the church, like my original church, with the people. I am at an age where, and you know, it's like, it's something that you just have to like accept. And I don't know, it's like I'm very thankful in a way. So I'm at an age where most people are, I mean, I've been at an age since I was like, I don't know, when did people start getting married? Like early 20s, like 23, 24. Ever since I was like 23, 24, around that age, I'm like, I've been at an age where most people are married and most people have kids. And that's kind of how I felt in my church, where I'm like, most people are married, they have kids, or they're older. And there's nothing wrong with marriage, there's nothing wrong with having kids, and there's nothing wrong with being older. It's just I like don't fit in those categories, right? So I was like, you know, I really want to start looking for a church that has a little bit more of a variety, and not in the sense of like, I'm not like, oh, I'm out there like prowling around looking for a husband. A variety as in like people in general, you know. So that like caters towards marriages, caters towards, you know, parenthood, caters towards the youth, but then also caters towards the in-betweeners, I guess, the people that aren't married, that don't have kids, you know what I mean, that don't have families yet, or yeah. So I started, so like I went out for breakfast or lunch. My dad and I went out for lunch with a family friend, and they were saying how they go to this one church, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've heard of it before. I do remember one of my friend's friend, she had gone there, and she said, I believe she said she enjoyed it. I think she went to maybe like one of the studies too. I can't remember everything, but it wasn't like, oh, I had a terrible experience, don't go there, you know. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try it out. And I asked them, and she was like, you know, they have so many different age groups, so many different types of people there. It's like, you know, and I was like, okay, you know, let's try it out. Why not? You know, can't hurt. And then I also went to a woman's breakfast, and that was yesterday, and met a really sweet girl yesterday. Not girl, she's like 25, but you know, sweet young woman. And she was so sweet too. She was it was at a different church, and she was telling us about like the different events that go on there, and My friend went as well, and my friend was interested in one of the things, the outreaches or the ministries, I guess, that they do there. So we're probably gonna go back and attend, or like at least try it out. You know, it doesn't hurt to just try. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, you do. So yeah, but you know, we did that, so that was good to kind of, you know, just socialize with other Christians, and it was all women, so it was just like a safer space, and yeah, it was cool. So last week we ended up going to this church, and I really enjoyed it. And what I really enjoyed about it, okay, so I feel like when you go to church, or when you're trying out new churches, it's like sometimes you'll find that the worship is really great and then the preaching isn't that great, or sometimes you'll find the preaching is great and the worship isn't that great. And okay, let me like preface this: all worship, if it is done to the Lord, is beautiful and great. It's just there's certain worship that is not really my style. I love instruments. Like, I want to hear drums, I want to hear the guitar, I want to hear the electric guitar. I don't want it to be like a concert. I just like, you know, I like that. So if it's just like the organ or the piano, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's beautiful. It's just not my style. That's what I mean by that. And yeah, so this, I was like, okay, I really enjoy everything. I really enjoyed it. Like, I really genuinely enjoyed it. That I was like, the Holy Spirit was on that electric guitar. Like, I don't know what that guy was doing. He must have been tapped into the spirit, because the electric guitar, I was just like, I like to like bob my head, or like, you know, what is that, like nod your head. I am a head bobber when it comes to, that sounds kind of weird, but like when it comes to oh my gosh, like I'm just like, my body gets into it, okay? I'm like, yeah, it's good. So basically, like, the electric guitar was great, the drums were great, the vocals were great. I was like, oh wow, okay, this is awesome, I love this. The only thing, and I'm not like nitpicking when I say this or do this, it was just like a little bit loud, but that was probably on me. I don't think anybody else really found it to be loud, and that's not a critique towards the church. My ears are like a little bit sensitive sometimes, depending on like certain pitches, and we were sitting up front, so that probably was the issue, because I didn't really have that issue today. And I sat like in the back, and I didn't have that issue today. So I think it was just, we were just like too close. But yeah, that's not a critique at that church. It's just my ears are sensitive. So when I sat in the back, I was completely fine today. But I really enjoyed it. The message was great. And so today was my first time going alone, like officially alone to a church. Normally, like, if I'm going alone, I'm like meeting somebody there that I know. I might meet with, you know, my friend or my friend's family or something like that. And I wasn't meeting anyone. I mean, I know people that go there, but I don't know them like that, where it's like, we're like BFFs, and you know what I mean? You know, I haven't seen them in so long. It was good to see them, but it's like, we haven't talked in a long time, we haven't seen each other in a long time. So yeah, I was like going there by myself, because my dad said he wanted to go to the original church. And I was like, you know what, I'm still gonna go. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking. So if anyone is out there and they are a little bit scared to maybe, you know, step outside their comfort zone, try out new churches, maybe they feel the same way or similar way, where they feel maybe they're in a different like life point or time frame or a life situation that other people in their church is in, or are in, you know what I'm saying. and they want to try and if you guys want to start trying out new churches, just do it. I mean, the hardest, like the number one thing that you have to remind yourself is to stop making up scenarios in your head. Because in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Da, 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 da. And literally none of the things. And that's how it normally works. And sometimes it does. Sometimes things do happen. But a lot of times when you're having this anxiety about something and you're like making up these different scenarios in your head, they don't end up working out the way that, and thank God they don't. But you're thinking of like worst case scenarios, right? And it's like, oh, none of those things happened. And literally none of those things happened. The best thing is to kind of try and turn your brain off. I just put on worship music. I was listening to The Blood by, so her name is Elisa Figuerera now, but her name used to be Elisa Smith. So it's on YouTube, Elisa Smith, The Blood by Upper Room. And I was listening to that because there's something about the electric guitar. Again, I just love electric guitar. I love the drums, like I just love it. And there's something on the electric guitar when it's like the tone that it does. It's so pretty. So I was listening to that and I was just like, it kind of was helping me focus on what I need to be focusing on. It's like, I feel, our fear really does try to distract us from the important part. And I kept trying to remind myself, I'm not here for other people. I'm not here for, the opinions or the critiques or whatever it is of other people. I'm here to, first of all, be in the house of the Lord, to worship, to get a message, to potentially, oh, okay, sorry. I didn't know what song it was. To, hopefully create new relationships. And yeah, so really just don't let the fear get in your way. I've done that so many times where I've wanted to go to a new church and I would get so nervous and so scared. Sometimes I literally, I'm not lying, I would go there and I would just sit in my car. I'd be so nervous and I just would like leave because I was so anxious. This was like a little while ago, like because I haven't really gone to another church in a couple of years. I mean, like visited. I've gone to like different churches, but as for by myself, I have not really attempted to do that. So this was my first time. I didn't feel that way this time. I didn't really feel like, oh, I wanted to go home. I just was kind of like, just go inside. Just go inside, girl. Like, you'll be fine. It's okay. And it's a kind of big church in a way. It is kind of big. But I just went in, I sat like all the way in the back because I remembered, I was like, I told myself I really wanted to sit in the back this time because of my ears. I think sitting up close it's too much for my ears. Like I said, that's not a critique. It's literally just my ears. It's not them. It's literally me. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. The worship was great. Again, I think it was a different guy on the electric guitar though, but it was still great. The message was great, very biblically sound. So yeah, we'll see. But there is a very important there is an importance, when it comes to community and finding a church. You don't necessarily have to go to church. I also agree with if you have your own community that meets somewhere, maybe at somebody's house, and it's like a little group of you guys, and you guys, whatever, I think that's cool too. I actually prefer small groups. I really like small groups because then you can kind of, I feel like you dive into it a little bit more, and yeah, but community is very important, and being around other believers is very important too. Other people who believe in similar as you. That might sound closed-minded, but it's really not, and it actually does sharpen your faith. I really do realize an effect on my life when I'm not able to be around other people who believe the same thing, because a lot of times I love talking about God, and I love talking about the Bible. And when there's not someone that's there, like, that I can talk about that with, it is a little bit draining, because I don't mind having conversations outside of the Bible and outside of God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit. Like, I don't mind having conversations. It's not like, when my friends get together, we always end up talking about God, but it's not everything that we talk about. We talk about a whole bunch of things, but it's always that, like, little tweak of, you're going through a hard time, but I'm praying for you. And it's like an uplifting and encouragement. Or maybe we might pray right then and there, for the situation. Or we might, like, bring up Bible verses, like, oh, I feel like this is on my heart, this verse. And it's encouraging, to hear, and to be able to have biblical encouragement and godly encouragement, because your faith and your beliefs align. It's very important. So, that's kind of, why I'm starting to go, I just branch out a little bit. And I think it's also really good for me to be doing this by myself, because I have a tendency to lean on other people a little bit too much. Like, I kind of just let people take the wheel. And because, I'm pretty introverted, and when it comes to conversations, I'm like, all right, you can go ahead and take the wheel, and I'll, like, chime in a little bit, and no, it's like I have no one to rely on but myself, and it does push me outside of my comfort zone. So it is good. And even if it's uncomfortable, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. Because it really wasn't that uncomfortable today. I just like walked in, and there were a bunch of seats open. I got kind of nervous when I first got in there, because there were so many people in there. I was like, oh shoot, is gonna be any seats left? I went in, like, I was on time, okay? I got there probably 10 minutes early, and I went in probably 5 minutes early. So I sat in my car for a little bit. I was like putting on lotion, because I didn't put lotion on. So I just sat in my car and put lotion on, and then I went inside, and I had to sit there by myself for a couple minutes. Then people just ended up joining in, like sitting in the same row as me. But yeah, it wasn't really that crazy awkward. I just kind of sat there. But I think it's really important. I've been alone a lot of my life, but I've been alone, but I haven't been, how do I explain that? How does one explain, I have been alone, but I haven't been, like, actively alone. Okay, hold on. I'm going to put that into other words. So what I mean by that is, like, I've been alone a lot of my life. And unfortunately, but fortunately, I do enjoy my own company. But I said the unfortunately part because I enjoy my own company, so it kind of makes it, like, a little bit hard for me to put myself out there, because I really enjoy just, like, chilling sometimes just by myself. So yeah, but what I mean by actively being alone is, or like consciously being, I don't know how to word that. I really don't know how to word it. But what I mean is, I'm still, like, doing things alone, but I'm putting myself out there more. Whereas, like, I'm putting myself in social situations alone. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's what I mean by that. Whereas before, I would just kind of be alone, but I really wouldn't put myself in too many social situations. Normally, like, work was my time, and even at work, I'd be like, sometimes, depending on my mood, if I'm in a talkative mood, I'm okay. But then sometimes I just, like to just keep to myself sometimes. It's nothing against nothing against anyone, and I feel like people sometimes might take that as like, oh, I don't like them. I'm like, this has nothing to do with you. It's just I'm not in the mood to talk. So sometimes I just want to listen to music. I'm like deep in thought. It has nothing to do with it. Sometimes, for the most part, it doesn't have anything to do with the people around me. But this is the first time that I'm like alone, but I'm putting myself out there, if that makes sense. And not in a way of like I'm just putting myself out there for whatever God has for me. That's what I mean. I don't really have a specific thing in mind. It's just more so like to be around other believers, and that's really what it's about. And to meet other people, because I feel like when, I've been to the same church for so many years, I feel like we almost can forget, like, there's more out there that believe the same thing. We don't always just have to keep to ourselves. We can be involved in different churches and different groups, which is what I kind of like I went to the women's breakfast yesterday, and like I said, she was saying all these different opportunities that they have at that church, and then there's different opportunities at this church. I'm not completely cutting off my original church. I just might not be there as much. I'm totally open to going to other churches, and I think a home church is important, but I don't see anything wrong with, like, oh, I'm going to a study at this church, or oh, there's an event. Like, some churches have like pickleball events, they have basketball, they have swimming, they have a pool at their church, they have different things, they have this class, they have that class, they have whatever. And I don't see anything wrong with going to different churches for like different classes and different social events, community events, different things when it comes to serving. So yeah, and I also was looking for a church that does more than like street outreach, or like more serving opportunities. So yeah, I mean, I'm not set in stone. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm just kind of seeing where it is. But I'm very proud of myself for just going by myself today. And yeah, so anyone that's like nervous or scared, first of all, you're not alone. Okay, like I said, I used to literally be so nervous and so socially anxious. Oh my gosh, social anxiety. Oh, stop, don't even get me started. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna like, it just, all these lies that pop up into your head, and it's like, it's not even true. And I just, I was like, who cares? I'm here because I am trying to put myself out there. I'm trying to find possibly a new church. And also, I'm just here to connect with God. I'm here to, hear the message. I'm here to just be involved in something, you know what I mean? And it's something good, not just in something, but in something good. So there's that. So yeah, I just wanted to speak about that, and give some type of encouragement to those, like I said, who are a little bit that can relate, and that tend to have a little bit of anxiety, and maybe you're in a stage of your life, or in a similar stage in your life as I am, and it's like, yeah, at some point you kind of have to rip off the band-aid and just do it. You know what I mean? Just do it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. I think that's honestly a good motto, is just don't think, just do. Well, sometimes do think, okay? Don't always just do. But if it's a good thing and you're kind of getting a little bit jittery about it, and it's a good thing, then just do it. Don't even think about it, because when you think about it, you're just gonna, these lies are gonna start popping into your mind, and you're just going to psych yourself out. You're gonna go and be like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do it. And it's like, you you can do it. I know that you can. So yeah, but also, like I said, the importance of community, to like godly community when you are a believer in Jesus Christ, you know, that community is so important. Being around other believers who believe in the same thing that you do is so important. And going to a church that is very biblically sound is important. Or at least being around a body of believers, you know, that's biblically sound is very important. And just the toll, like you can tell like the difference in conversations. I can tell the difference in my conversations with my friends who believe in Jesus, and then, you know, with people that who don't. And that's not me being like, ugh, you know, you don't believe in Jesus. Like, no, that's not me at all. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. It's just, there's a complete difference. Our conversations end up being different, you know, and I always feel like very uplifted. Not that I don't feel uplifted, but there's something about, you know, when you're expressing something, you're sharing something, and you guys just have, you know, that you have that foundation in common. You know that you have that foundation in common. And like I said, whenever you need that encouragement, having people there to pray for you, and for you to pray for you to encourage them, and for them to encourage you when you're going through a really rough time, for them to remind you, like, this is where our hope comes from. This is, you know, this is who we are rooted in, and what we are rooted in, and the power that we are rooted in. To have that as a reminder, you know, in your relationships is so important, because it's the backbone. It is the backbone of the body of believers. Like, it is what keeps us standing tall and strong, you know. So that is really important for me. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing. And then also, last but not least, I want to talk to my single girlies and guys if they're watching. It's okay. So I know that it can get a little bit hard, and like, especially if you're waiting, like if you've been praying, or for those who've been waiting, and sorry, I'm getting a little distracted, but I just want to remind y'all that you are in such a beautiful position. And I'm reminding myself too, because I don't always feel like I'm in a beautiful position, but it really is a beautiful position. And like, I do have things, and I do have like distractions, and I have a decent amount of responsibilities. But you know, I also, sorry, I was gonna yawn. I also really try to remind myself how important being single is. I, you know, come to these realizations, and I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful, because I get to like serve when I want to serve. I have access to doing more things. You know, when you're married, when you have kids, which there's nothing wrong with being married, and there's nothing wrong with having kids. It's a very beautiful thing which comes from God, and God values marriage. Like, I was reading the book of Deuteronomy and like the laws, and I think it says somewhere, don't quote me because I've only read it once, like the whole book through and through, but it's like, I feel like this was God's command. Like, it might have been God's command to Moses, or was it in Joshua? Shoot. But they were like, if you are engaged to, like, I think they were going, oh my gosh, they were going up for battle somewhere. I can't remember exactly, because now I'm getting the books mixed up. But they were going up for battle somewhere. It might have been Joshua. And they were like, yeah, it was Joshua, I think. And they were like, if you are engaged to be married, go back home to your fiance and marry her and enjoy your wife, you know, for, I don't know if it was a certain period of time or whatever. And then it was like, oh, if you are this, go back home and take care of this. And, you know, I thought it was so interesting because, you know, if they're going out for battle, the fact that they weren't just saying, oh, you're engaged, oh well, this land means more than your engagement. I was like, no, go home to your fiance, get married, and enjoy your time together. Like, you know, enjoy each other, you know, and build that relationship. And I don't know. So it's like, obviously God values marriage and also the importance of marriage. He talks about it in the New Testament, and you can see it throughout the Bible how God values marriage. So okay, the point is that God values marriage. That's what I'm saying. So it's not like a dig at, you know, marriage and having kids. It's very important, and I love, you know, whenever people are able to have kids and raise them up into Christian families and godly, loving. When I say Christian families, I mean like actual Christian, because a lot of people claim to be Christian and their lives, the way that they treat each other, do not reflect Christ-like behaviors. The way that they treat their kids, the way that they raise their kids, the way that they teach their kids and talk to their kids do not reflect Christ-like behavior. So when I say Christian, I mean Christ-like behavior, not just the blanket statement of I'm a Christian, but I'm going to treat my wife how I want to treat her. I'm a Christian, I'm going to treat my family how I want to treat my family. And I'm going to speak like this and act like this because this is what I want to do, but also claim to be a Christian. That's not what I'm talking about. But I just, you know, I was like, it's such a beautiful thing because you have time. Like I have, okay, well, when I'm working, it's a little bit harder to have the time. But, you know, even after work or the days that I have off, I'm able to be involved, right? I'm able to be involved in people's lives. I'm able to be involved in service, whether it's serving the community, serving people at church, serving people, like giving financially to people, to like donations, or to people in the church, or to local communities, or whatever families in need. You know, if I was married and I had kids, I would be in a completely different position. My time would be taken up more. My money would be taken up more. So many different things. I would have less, because if I was married, I'd probably have, like, we'd probably be saving for something, like whatever married people save for, houses and future, you know, kids, insurance, and like all these different things, you know. And then, you know, scheduling too, you know, it's like now I have to look out for my husband's schedule and like check in with my husband and ask him like, hey, do we have anything going on for this day? You know, whatever. Like right now, I just have to be responsible for obviously my relationship with God, and then, you know, I help, you know, with my dad, but I have to be responsible for myself and my own time. So I'm able to just say a quicker yes, you know. It's not like, oh, I have to think about it, I have to talk to my husband about it, I've talked to God about it, but, you know, I have to, you know, try and see if I can have someone to watch the kids, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. I think I love seeing healthy Christian marriages, healthy Christian families, but I'm talking to people that are, you know, still single, and maybe they feel like, oh my gosh, I don't really have a place. I remember when my friend, I'm not gonna say the name obviously, but I remember when my friend was still single and she wasn't necessarily working at like a like a facility. She had like, what is that? I guess it would be called like freelancing. But I remember talking to her and being like, you are in the coolest position ever. You have the time to be able to serve God's people. Like, how cool is that? Because, you know, for me at that time, I was working a lot. I was working like 6 days a week and working long hours, and I was still single, but I was working so much. And I was like, oh, like I would love to be able to have more time and availability to be able to serve in different places and different opportunities. But I just want people to kind of have a different perspective. And I know it can get like hard and, you know, it can get difficult sometimes. But I hope that this is a little bit of an encouragement to, you know, let you know that you're in a really cool spot. You know, you're in a really cool spot, and that might be hard to hear, and it might not be the spot that you want to be in. And, you know, but you're in a really cool position where, you know, you can serve God in whatever way that looks like, wholeheartedly, you know, where it's not like you have this, you have that, you have, you know, one thing pulling you in this direction, another thing pulling you in this direction, besides your own desires and your own self. But, you know, you don't have your kids, and not that there's anything wrong with that. And I pray that happens. You know, I pray that happens for those who are desiring marriage and desiring to have kids. But I think it's so important to enjoy, you know, the moments that we're in. I'm talking to myself too. It's so important to enjoy the moments that we're in, because it's like we could never be here again. You know, we could never be here again. We could never have this much time again. Okay? Once you get married and once you have kids, you will be like praying for extra time. And right now it's like you just have time. You have time to read your Bible. You have time to serve in different communities, different places, and doesn't necessarily have to be in the church. It could be, you know, a food bank. It could be a soup kitchen, like whatever. But you just have that time, and it's a really beautiful position to be in. And it's also like, I also look at it as, you know, me being able to work through my different things with God as well. And to be able to, I think it's really cool to not have someone to rely on in a way. Like, I know, but it kind of allows you to really rely on God more, you know, than to rely on a physical person. And when you put yourself out there relying on God's strength to allow you to be able to do what he's calling you to do, you know, instead of a physical person, because it's easier to rely on a physical person. It's like you can see the physical person, you know, and it should be easier to rely on God. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not, you know. So I just want to remind y'all that it's a beautiful spot to be in, and to not take it for granted. That includes me too. So I'm reminding myself of that too. So anyways, all right, that's it. I have some things I have to do. I don't want to do them, but I have to do them. So, but until next time, adios.